So sometimes I don't know how far we can go, right? Well, just like not, I did not mean to say Kegel. Like, no, you know what I mean? Like, I'll say all kinds of foul and weird
I'm
things.
so glad you did, though.
Well, maybe you will leave it in then. Because I was like, oh my God, what the hell? Well, nonetheless.
It's all right. All right, let's get going on this one. All right. All right, everybody, welcome back to the realm for our next episode. This week we are talking about haunted ships and the ghosts who reside on them,
Who are
so
you?
to speak. Who am I?
Yeah.
I didn't get to that yet.
Oh, okay.
I am Rich. Gina is off today. What? I'm not rich. I think I am.
No,
Oh,
it's just funny
You're
that the
Lord
next thing
Finkel.
was
I am the
Gina's
Lord.
off today.
Gina's off today, so she left the inmates to run the prison. So
Everything is falling apart.
Right. When the cat's away.
yeah, yep. God knows what's going to happen. Who knows what
Oh,
we're going to
man.
say? But you know what? Could be a good episode. I don't know. Stay tuned to find out. Anyway,
I'm
once
Rob.
again, who? You guys are confusing me now. We got the chaos monger down there, and I thought you. Wait a minute. I thought you were. You're not Bry Guy.
I'm not Bry Guy. This damn thing keeps changing
What the
it
hell's going
every
on
time
here?
we start. Yeah.
I thought you were Joe Schmo 2 or whatever the hell we're calling you.
Jimbo number 2.
Jimbo number 2.
Jimbo number 2.
Compliments
You're
of
full of Jimbos.
somebody we know. We gathered some nicknames a few weeks back, and yeah,
Does that person listen to your podcast?
probably not, motherfucker. I'm sure he doesn't.
Yeah. I think we're free to say whatever we want to. He's
I
never.
mean, you know, you go to your family members and hey, you want to listen to my podcast? Sure. You guys listen? No.
No.
Yeah,
fuck you
that's
then.
all my friends are.
So,
These
you
are
know,
people
that's
I've
fine.
known for years. You listen
Yeah.
to my No, I haven't.
They don't
not
know what they're
yet,
missing.
haven't
That's
yet.
the way I look at it. They don't know
I think
what
you're
they're
just
missing.
jealous of our celebrity status.
Could be.
No,
could
but
be.
there, but there's nothing like having that person bring us paranormal incidents that he thinks are paranormal because he wants to know what we think, and then we proceed to tell him what we think, and he wants
He
to
tells
accept.
us no, and then he calls us
Tells us
names
no,
and
yeah.
everything else. It's like, you
Uh-huh.
want help or not? We can tell you how to.
Yeah.
We can tell you what we think. No, you're wrong. Then why'd you ask us?
Yeah.
Not that we're trying to be right. We're trying to give you our thoughts and our opinion, but our opinions are never correct.
Can we bring this person on as a guest?
God, I hope not.
What are you afraid?
Yeah,
Ooh.
see that fit right in there. That was
Oh
perfect.
yeah, you walked right into it.
I set you up good on that one.
Oh,
So anyway, that aside, as much fun as we have, and this week we booked our flights for Ireland, which is coming up. So we're looking forward to that. That is a big thing that we've been discussing here on the pod and sharing with everyone on Facebook. We're taking the group international in February. We're going to go to Ireland and Scotland, and we're going to take that place by storm and hopefully not cause any problems.
Yeah, 2-night investigation at the Haunted Ross Castle. Not to be confused with the not Haunted Ross Castle.
I'm looking forward to it.
We'll be probably doing a podcast from there, some Facebook
I hope so.
Live.
I hope so.
After that, we're going to do some sightseeing, and we're going to go to Scotland, and we're going to go to the Loch Ness.
Yes, we are. I'm looking forward to it.
Do some fishing.
Yep. And today I belong to on Facebook one of those Ireland groups. That I popped on one just so that it's like a sightseeing thing or a tourist thing or whatever. So there's constantly pictures or constantly stories of things to do in Ireland. And you know how many times I see one that's a castle that you can go visit to check out. That's for tourists to go check out. That is not the one we're staying at, and it's not even that. It's not even one that you'd probably go to stay at. A lot of those castles over there are basically ruins now. They're not something that is inhabitable, And I think even the one that we're going to is part of the original set up castle towers like that, but then it's been rebuilt, on top of that for a bed and breakfast thing. But it still has the original footprint and the original abbey and the original everything. So, but I see a lot of them that are just kind of like ruins where there's like ladders and scaffolds and, oh, stop and see this one. I'm like, man, if we had enough time, I would stop at every one and check them out. Just because, I mean, I think that's just so cool, you know. I mean, but we got a lot of stuff planned, and so stay tuned. In I don't even. That's probably would probably be next season's uh, pod. I'm sure we're going to talk a lot about it. I'm sure we're going to have lots of cool things happen, and probably a lot of fun stuff happen. So stay tuned for that. But I digress. We're talking about haunted ships this week. Not exactly like a ghost ship, which we did a movie review on, but haunted ships, meaning a ship that supposedly has paranormal activity or a location where people go to investigate that has things going on. There's an endless amount worldwide of these so-called haunted ships. There's a few here in the U.S., and I think those are some of the ones I think I'm going to bring up, and then you guys can jump in and you guys can tell me whatever you want. First one I think that comes to mind is probably the Queen Mary for most people. Is probably one that, you know, all of these places, they're always the most haunted place in America. Doesn't matter where it is, what you go to. If you go to the Dairy Queen that's missing the spoon, it's the most haunted Dairy Queen in America that's missing the spoon.
Missing the spoon.
So, you know, Queen Mary is the Rob got it. Rob, welcome to the show, Rob. The Queen Mary is one of those ones that if you ask paranormal investigators, I think, and people, you say, hey, where are the top places you want to go? Everybody says Waverly Hills. Everybody says, Farrar is a big one that a lot of people, it wasn't at first, but I think in the last 10 years took off more where you're seeing a lot more stuff there. But, like Alcatraz, Eastern State, places like that. The lighthouse in Florida, I forget what it's called. Which lighthouse is that, Brian? Remember which one?
Which one? St. Augustine? Is that what you're thinking?
St. Augustine, thank you. That lighthouse, which now every time I see a lighthouse, I want to go in a lighthouse because I think they're haunted, which is totally bullshit because, I'm sure that's not the case. But when you see something like that, you're like, oh man, I bet you there's a bunch of haunted lighthouses. Side note, Ireland has a bunch of lighthouses, so maybe we'll actually get to see one. I'm looking forward to it. But Queen Mary is one of those ones that's always on the list. And if you go on social media or if you go into like YouTube videos, there's a lot of videos out there, and there's been a lot of podcasts of different groups going there, and a lot of the TV shows have been there. That location, I've been to that location. I've been to the Queen Mary. I did not stay there when we went.
Scared?
No. What are you scared?
Oh, you're scared.
That's what I need. A shirt with the Queen Mary. Did you stop? Did you stop? Question mark. What are you scared? I love it. Oh man, the possibility is endless with this guy. So I did not go in there. We didn't go in. We were there for something else, and I made everybody go to Long Beach because of the Queen Mary. So I was the bad guy for a few minutes. We don't want to go see a ship. Trust me, let's just check it out. And they talk it up big. Of it's a haunted location. When you watch some of the YouTube videos, I watched one last week, I think it was, and there was a group of people that went in that are basically, they do podcasts and they have like a YouTube channel thing like that. I don't know that they're actually paranormal investigators, so to speak. But they go in, and they're doing all their stuff, and they're kind of goofing off the whole time. They had some weird stuff happen. But I think at any time when you go to a location like that, you need to spend time there before you can start saying things are weird. I know that location used to be owned, Queen Mary used to be owned by Disney Corporation. So if that tells you anything, they had one room in there that was rigged up to be a haunted room where, things would move, or you'd hear knocking, the door handle would jiggle, or this would go on and off. It had things like that. So it was a special room that they had to sell that haunted location to it. The problem being is when Disney sold it and got out of it, they didn't tell anybody about that. Okay. So this room was still had all this stuff set up in there. So I think some of that stuff with that haunted room wasn't necessarily really a haunted room. It was a Disney room, and people didn't realize it until after the fact. So some of that stuff I think you got to take with, grain of salt here. Oh, we heard a noise. Now, that being said, I'm not saying that it's not haunted. I'm not discrediting anybody. I would love to go there and stay. I believe Gina and Kez did stay there, so I would. At one time, I would like to hear their story if they had anything happen, because we've seen it on numerous shows where you hear different things happening. But I mean, there was an episode of Ghost Hunters, if I can say it, which I'm going to anyway.
You already did. Too late.
What's that?
It's too late. You already said it.
Yeah, where they caught somebody messing with the evidence.
The bar.
No, it was no, not that one. That was something else. But this one here, for anybody that doesn't know, I'll tell you best I can remember. They set up. There was a room that the people on the Queen Mary pointed out was specifically a haunted room. Every time we go in there, the covers are pulled off the bed.
Yes,
we can make the bed, and the covers are always pulled off. So they set up a camera in there, aiming at the bed, and left it. They had gone back in the middle of the night because they needed to change batteries. And when they went to go change the batteries, they noticed the bed wasn't made. Holy shit, the bed's unmade. So they start watching back the video, and they watch it pull back out of nowhere. Holy shit, everybody's running, everybody's screaming. Oh my God, you guys got to come see this video. Oh my God. Everybody's, no way, you can't believe it. They're watching it. They're like, holy shit, we just caught that. Then Steve says, wait a minute. Or Dave, I don't remember if it was Dave Tango or Steve. Wait a minute.
I think it was Dave.
It's been tampered with. And everybody looks at each other like, what the fuck are you talking about? They didn't say that. They can't swear on TV. We can. So it's a perk. It's a perk. And he shows on there, he shows it, he said it's an old editing and video trick. You can see if you watch it, every time it moved, you could see how the tape stopped for a second. Because every time it would start back up, the blanket or the sheet was just off a little bit when it would start the next time.
So it was like stop motion?
Correct. Yes. So they were like, holy shit, somebody was in here. How did somebody get in here? They found a doorway somewhere in between the two rooms that led into that room that where somebody small, it wasn't a big area, it was a small area, was able to sneak in there, get behind the camera and do that. So right away, at that point, I don't care what anybody says. Anything you tell me, I can't believe, especially if you catch that. I mean, there could be 10 other things on that ship that are real, but now you're going to question everything if you find somebody messing with your shit. So
what ship was that on the Queen Mary?
That was on the Queen Mary. Yeah, I don't remember what season or what episode, but that's one that is a big one. Queen Mary. There's a USS Hornet. There's a lot of military ships that seem to have so-called paranormal activity. I've been on the one in which ones was I was on the Midway, USS Midway, which is a lot of these are aircraft carriers. There's a lot of battleships. There's a lot of stuff like that. The two that I was on were two retired aircraft carriers. The USS Midway Museum is in San Diego, and the Intrepid is in New York, and they're both museum ships now. But both of those ships and numerous other ones, like I was saying, I got a list of them here, all claim to have paranormal activity on them of some sort, where you're seeing sailors, because there was a lot of death on a lot of the military ships, whether it was in battle or, they all have hospitals on board. So, I mean, a lot of times you had, it was the patients, or it was soldiers, or a lot of these ships were involved in rescue missions. So they were bringing people on board. So there was a lot of death associated with a lot of these ships. I wasn't there to do investigations, unfortunately. I was there for other things. So, but anytime I go to those places, my interest is always piqued because I'm wondering what happened. And I always ask, and everybody thinks I'm crazy, but I always ask, everywhere I go, I ask, is there any ghosts here? Any haunted stuff? And a lot of times people will start talking, and they'll start telling you, oh yeah, we so-called this happens down here. This, people say they see this, a lot of it isn't publicized. They're not marketed as the USS Midway Museum haunted ship. They're not marketed that way. But if you ask the questions, you start to find out that there's strange things that people think happen on board. So I think those would be really cool to check out. One that's close to us that we've talked about is the USS Cobia submarine up in Manitowoc. Now I know we've talked about going up there, and it's hard for us to get in there. I think we're going to do it. We're just going to pick a date and do it. The problem is it's only during the week. There's no weekends, and that makes it hard. But I don't think we should let it deter us from going there, because when I looked it up, you get access to the museum, you get access to the submarine, and it's all after hours stuff. So you have the run of the place. So I think that'd be cool, because you could actually turn it into a multiple investigation of the submarine, and also in the museum itself, Maritime Museum, because they've got stuff in there, like stuff from the Edmund Fitzgerald. They've got stuff in there from other shipwrecks on the Great Lakes. So what I've seen on other shows where there's haunted ships, that are, a lot of these are museums or they're at museums. So you got a lot of artifacts, you got a lot of things that could hold, paranormal activity, or, haunted object thing. But I looked it up because that's another one that, you okay, it's a submarine, big deal. So I looked up, and it says that, it was in 6 wars, and it was in patrolling during World War II, and sank many enemy ships. And they claim that they do have spirit activity on that submarine. So it's not just a thing where you would go and you would say, oh yeah, we're going to go and we're going to stay on this ship, and it's just, just for fun. They do have a site if you go to it, and it says the USS Cobia haunted submarine. So they're not sure really who's on there. I thought I was reading, let me see if I can find it. They thought it was there was a gunner. So right for you, Rob. So we're on our way to Ireland. The gunner. Rob's going to protect us when we go through New York.
I got you guys.
Yep. Or if that sucker starts to take a hard left after takeoff, we ain't having no MH-70. No, we ain't having that bullshit happen.
Nope.
Rob's on it. Rob's going to be taking care of us. Any unplanned movements, and we're going to be sending out a breadcrumb trail immediately so people can find us. We're not going to play that game. Anyway, 19-year-old Ralph Clark Hudson Jr. was a gunner, and he was killed February 27th, 1945, during a surface gun battle with 2 Japanese ships. And he was hit by 2 50 caliber machine gun bullets, one in the arm and one in the chest. He was taken below deck where his arm was amputated, but they didn't have the means at the time to treat his abdominal injury, and he succumbed to his injuries. So right there's one confirmed death on board, and they're thinking that he may be one of the people on board that could be causing some mischief. If I remember right, did you go with Brian when we went many years ago?
Yep.
Yeah. Then they take you through the tour of it. I don't remember if they brought that up or not, anything about being haunted.
It doesn't ring a bell of them saying haunted stuff. I feel like that would have stuck out to us.
Right. But I really do want to do that one. I think it would be great for us to do it. And if 4 people can only go, then 4 people go. I think we need to get who we can go. I mean, we don't need a lot of people. I mean, it says it sleeps a lot of people, and the base is like based on 5 people. Anybody over 5, then they just charge a little bit more. But so I mean, even if you have 4 or 5 people go, that's plenty. I think you could split up the night. You could, like I said, 2 people could stay on the boat for a little bit, or the sub. 2 people could go inside. You got not a lot of cross contamination, stuff like that. So.
Have you actually seen it? Have you seen it?
I've been on it. Yep.
Is it? I mean, I've never been on a submarine. I've never seen a real submarine. Mm-hmm. Is it pretty big?
Oh yeah, it's pretty good size. Yeah. When you go in, there's several levels.
Is it
Tight.
claustrophobic?
It's tight.
It's
I would.
tight.
It's tight.
That is, in my old age, I'm getting claustrophobic, and that's been my concern the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can't answer that for you. I guess that's only something you can answer. I don't know. I mean, it's
I'm gonna
tight in there. It's
feast
a
my
submarine. It's tight.
fears.
It's tight. It's not, you got to do a lot of ducking and stuff in there, and there's a lot of close quarters because it's. I don't know what the actual dimensions are of it, but I mean, it's not real wide. I mean, it's big enough. I mean, you'd be able to roam around in there no
Oh,
problem. Not
yeah.
we wouldn't have issues, but it is tight in there. But that's like the closest one to home, and I think that would be one that would be easy to do. So I think we need to look into that. Um, that is a big one that I really didn't even think about until Gina brought it up. Whenever that was last year, beginning of this year, when she brought it up, and I was like, "Oh man, I didn't even think about that." But I would like to check that one out. Let's see what the other. Let's see what some of the top tens are. If I can find some. Let's see.
Star of India.
Yep. USS Constellation, a Hornet.
Ooh.
There's several ships that are whatever, but the most haunted, obviously, they say is the Queen Mary. So, Brian, you got any places that pique your interest or
Um,
any that you've heard of or
well, first, if anybody's looking for that Ghost Hunters episode, it's season 2, episode 11. They go to the
oh, it's right
Winchester
away in season
House.
2, huh?
Yeah, it's in season 2. They go to Winchester House and the Queen Mary.
Oh, Winchester House. Yeah.
I think you guys can check those out on Pluto TV. I'm pretty sure for free. I think you can get all those seasons on there. So that's
On what?
if anybody's out there for Scaretober and you need your fix of that stuff, Pluto TV's free, and they got a whole Ghost Hunters channel, which is kind of fun to go back and see some of that stuff. Um, when I think of haunted ships, the first thing that always pops my mind is the Flying Dutchman,
Oh,
with
yeah.
more of, is it a myth? Is it not a myth? Um, I mean, it's all over the place in pop culture. I mean, people probably would know it most recently from the Pirates of the Caribbean movies with Davy Jones is on the Flying Dutchman. Hey, we just did a Davy Jones movie with Ghost Ship too. How about that?
That's kinda
Um,
like a death omen, right? If you see it, it's not good and bad it's not a good, thing, right? That's what the Dutchman was?
yeah, yeah, it's supposed to be like a bad omen, and you're not supposed to hail it or anything like that if you see it. But that one is probably maybe the oldest one that people have talked about that kind of started the whole ghost ship or haunted ship thing, and um, just the concept of like ghost ships or seeing things out at sea and seeing a ship that you think is a ghost ship. A lot of that gets, shouldn't say a lot of that, I'm sure probably all of it gets chalked up to just optical illusions with the ocean and how the light works and the horizon, where you can get light refracting off of the water over the horizon, and it'll make it look like a reflection of a ship that exists that you can't see, almost a Pepper's ghost effect. It'll make it look like it's floating over the water, and it's a little translucent. So I think that's where a lot of that stuff comes from,
Yeah.
especially back in the day. I mean, if you're old sailors in the 1800s and you're on a ship going back and forth across the ocean, you start coming up with some weird shit. I mean, we've all seen Cabin Boy with Chris Elliott. We know that shit gets weird out there. Rob, no?
No, I've
Wow.
never.
Very wow. The Cabin Boy with Chris Elliott. If you can find it, check it out, guys. It's a funny movie. It's very of its
I
time. Rich,
yeah, I think
you
I
remember
saw that.
Cabin Boy. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, vaguely.
It was like came out circa like the Ben Stiller show. Like kind of
Mm,
that early 90s, kind of came out around that same time when In Living Color and Ben
right.
Stiller show and stuff were on. It kind of, because I think there was a lot of people maybe from some of those shows that were in it, but
Yep.
remember it being funny. But shit gets weird out there on the open ocean. They start seeing mermaids, they start seeing ghost ships. I'm sure there's a lot of things they have to do to pass the time. I'm sure that all that kind of stuff comes up pretty easily back then, and then stuff goes through the ages getting handed down, and then before you know it we have Davy Jones as captaining the Flying Dutchman, ferrying souls to the other side.
Mm.
But really, when you think of it, the Queen Mary is the first thing too. You think Flying Dutchman, but when you think about an actual tangible ship that you can go on, Queen Mary, because of what you said, we've been told it's the most haunted one. So, ergo, it must be the most haunted place.
So do you think the Titanic is a haunted ship now?
Ooh,
The bottom, do you think that that is a not that anybody's ever going to find out because I mean, you're not people aren't going there on a regular basis anymore, but
well,
you think that
people tried.
um yeah, they've tried. Um do you think that do you think there's paranormal activity surrounded in that area of where that Titanic is? I mean, because basically it's a graveyard now. I mean, basically, because they didn't remove anything from there. I mean, other than a few artifacts, but I mean, any human remains or anything like that that was there, they left it. It's basically a graveyard. So, I mean, I'm curious if I wonder if there's any stories out there of that. I wonder if anybody's seen a ghost Titanic floating around out there in the Atlantic. I mean, we never heard about it, but I mean, I wonder if there's any. I wonder if there's anything to that. That'd be interesting to find out.
It's interesting because you had very traumatic thing that happened there, and we always say that water sometimes seems to be a conduit to
Sure.
stir up some paranormal activity. So
Hmm.
I mean, it could be if there are ghosts there. I hope that Kate from the or not Kate, Rose from the movie. I was going with the actress, but Rose from the movie Titanic. Hopefully she's not there with the ghosts because she's the real villain of that movie. Go back and watch it. She's terrible. She she has no business. This woman had a loving husband after the events of that. She has children and grandchildren, and at the end of the movie, she dies and she goes to her heaven with the little scallywag little gutter rat that she meets on the Titanic. I'd be pissed if I was her dead husband, waiting for her, and she blows you off to go see Jack. Billy Zane was not wrong in that movie. That's all I'm saying.
Huh. Huh. Nice. Rob, what about you? You got any that stand out to you or that you're familiar with?
uh,
Or
I did a little research. There's, when you look up ghost ships, there's not a lot of information out there. Um, when you get a ship, when you find one and you try to read about it, and then
Hmm.
you try to get more information, there isn't a ton of stuff that seems to be easily accessed to it. So, but to me, I've always liked abandoned places.
sure.
I even like to look at like pictures, amusement parks, buildings, factories, and whatnot. And um, I watched a movie. I was playing a video game. I shouldn't even say a movie about an oil rig out in the ocean, and I was like, man, I wonder if there's abandoned oil rigs out there, and there's tons of them. But there's abandoned ships for whatever reason they get abandoned can be out in the ocean. Um, there was one that I had just seen some information here on that was floating around for 18 months. It was seen one time in 18 months, and then they found it smashed up against rocks. But to come across, like some of these liners are huge, and they're just abandoned. Um, Tankers and whatnot. Sometimes they don't even know why they were abandoned. Probably mostly because of pirates or whatnot.
Ooh.
And nobody really, nobody wants anything to do with them, so they get scrapped, or they just let them sink, or they sink them themselves. But nobody really gets that opportunity to investigate them. Maybe that's what we need to do:
Ooh.
find random abandoned boats. The ocean's huge. That's got to be a really difficult thing
I'm
to
writing this down, Rob. We need to find huge abandoned ships
with
at
our we'll get when we get our helicopter or so I mean I read a lot. I read some stuff on that. That's why I brought up the Star of India. um it seemed interesting. There was a lot of deaths. There's a lot of deaths on there that are questionable. But there's not, most of the stuff they talk about is they feel like somebody was brushed up against them, or they have a feeling of uneasiness, and even to get pictures, try to find pictures of like ghosts on
Hmm.
on a boat. I'm not really finding anything. I
Yeah.
did find a whole article here about ghosts of the sea. They go into a bunch of stuff, but at the end it says ghosts of the Titanic.
Oh,
But I mean, who knows, right? Who's going down there to look?
Right.
hmm.
I'd go down and look.
Well, yeah, I would too. I would be cautious on the vessel I chose to do it.
Oh,
Smart.
definitely. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Good point.
It's a
I'm sure
bold
it'd be very
strategy,
fun.
Cotton.
Yeah.
And that
I
would
don't want to be part of the scenery. So
right, and haunted ship versus ghost ships, you know.
yeah, I mean, because you do hear the stories of like you're talking about. You hear about the ones that are like basically abandoned ships that are floating around out there that they call ghost ships as well. But I don't know. Um, that's a paranormal thing on those. I think it's just because it's an abandoned ship floating around. But that's kind of like that was kind of like the premise of the ghost ship movie. It's just a ship out there floating around in the middle of the ocean. And then people come aboard it and whatever they find they find. And that they just happen to find in that movie they found the holy grail of everything they could find. So I mean we're not that lucky. We'd go on and just find spider webs. You know.
You sounded like Steve Martin in Three Amigos. Ours just happens to be the actual El Guapo. A
Yeah, I
big
mean,
giant to kill us.
yeah, I mean, so pick your poison, I guess, at that point. But
There happened to be an actual ghost ship filled with actual ghosts that were trying to kill them.
yeah, they got lucky on that one, so to speak. Well, not in the end, they didn't get lucky, but anyway, that was a different story. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's so many probably worldwide. Um, there was one in Ireland.
Oh, it's toy.
There's one in Ireland off I think the west coast of there that was sunk or it was beached or something. I don't even know how I came across it. Somehow I saw a picture of a ship and it was all rusted out. You can't get on board it no more. It's all sealed up supposedly. But man, that'd be cool. I mean, just to have that stuff and I know I've read a lot of places where they're taking ships and they're purposely sinking them to make like a reef out of them. So I mean, all those things are pretty cool. I mean,
Well, you
ghosts or
think
not.
that some of the ships are still there at Pearl Harbor, right?
Yes, you
So
got to
that would
think.
be interesting. I mean, that'd be a good place to go do an investigation. I wonder if anybody's really ever did an investigation at Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, I don't know. Probably not officially. I don't think military is going to let you do that. But
That's a good.
I would agree.
It's a
I would agree.
touristy thing, isn't it?
Yeah, you can. Nothing's stopping you from taking something with you when you're there.
Yeah, we know that's how you roll.
Well, I do.
Yeah.
So I roll. I bring a recorder wherever I go usually because you never know. I mean, we've been enough places now that you come across things and you question everything and you'd be surprised what you find out there. Um, but I don't know. But that's I think that's about all I have on the ghost haunted ship thing. I mean, I think we all agree Queen Mary's probably the quote unquote number one that they say. Um, I'd like to stay there. I know that they had some issues in the past couple of years of they needed to do some renovating or something like that to keep it where it was, and it was in some disrepair. But I think it's open again, and I believe that you can stay there again. And I'd do it if I was out there. I mean, that's the first place I'd go if I was in Southern California. I was looking for a place to stay. First place I would check would be the Queen Mary, just because of what we do and because of the interest we have in it. Um, that'd be pretty cool. So that's still on my bucket list to do is to do that. Um, and then obviously, other one on my list would be the submarine, just because it's so close to us. Um, I haven't seen a lot. I didn't see a lot out there. A lot of times when being a group like we are, there's a lot of other paranormal teams in the area, and a lot of times you kind of trip over each other sometimes going to places where this group was here, this group was there, you see a lot of that. Any people out there
You can
listening.
tour. You can do investigations on a lot of these boats. The Some of them, I mean, like I've never even heard of, and you can still go do some investigations on it. the one boat that they have nicknamed the Blue Ghost, and I'm trying to the Lexington.
Mm.
Yeah, they just had some big investigation. I know you could get tickets to,
Yep.
but
Yep.
they're parked by museums, and I think when you the Star of India, I mean, you're talking about boats from the 1800s that we can
Yep.
still step aboard and do an investigation.
Yep. Yep. That'd be cool. I remember. I think that was one that was on one of the Ghost Hunters episodes. I think if I remember right. I remember there was a couple of them in. I think they in San Diego. I think there was a couple of them that they did. They did like a 2-night one. There was like two ships together, and I think one of them was that one. I could be wrong. So nobody call up the show. We got so many fans. The line will probably be busy when you call. So just keep
Uh,
trying. But anybody
I'm
wants
gonna
to call
call
me
them
out
up.
on that. Yeah,
I'm
don't
gonna
call me
call
out
them
on it.
up.
Don't quote me, but I remember there was something like that, and it was like one of those old schooner ships, which would be cool. I mean, because you got the whole spectrum. Like I said, you got the aircraft carriers, you got the battleships, you got the old schooner type ships, like kind of like the Flying Dutchman type. You get all that the old pirate ship things. I mean, those are you got to think just with the history and what they've from their from the time they were built, just everything they've seen. There's got to be
Yeah,
something, you know.
people dying on there's
I
between
mean,
war and just being out at sea for so long. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
got to be.
there's got to be energy. There's got to be energy, negative, positive. Who cares what kind? There's got to be something in those ships, that would be worth checking out. So, I mean, if anybody ever brings it up, I'm game. I'm open for doing that stuff. So, um,
Now that everybody's got their passports, we go all over the place.
I don't have my passport yet.
Well, you
What?
get that.
I mean, I have it, but I had to renew it. So I sent it off to get renewed. It didn't come back yet. So, but
Mm,
but it will be because they cashed my check. So I'm sure
hopefully it's back on time.
it will be. We got what, 5 months? If it doesn't come back in 5 months, then I'll be concerned. But I mean, when did I send it? I don't remember when I sent it, but beginning of July, middle of July. So I mean, and
You'll
then
get it around December.
I noticed the one day I looked, oh, they cashed my check. I said, so that's a good sign. At least I must not have messed up the application for renewal because they did cash the check. So I would expect it to be coming back shortly. So yeah, because I'm going to need that. I think either that or you're going to need a bigger suitcase. So
Yeah. Yeah. If anybody knows Peter James, he passed away unfortunately several years ago, but he was a psychic medium,
Hmm.
kind of the paranormal world, and he focused on the Queen Mary, and he did ghost tours. I think he has maybe some books and some videos about it. Um, but if anybody is interested in hearing him tell some stories about it, if you go on YouTube and you just type in Peter James Loveline, the old radio show Loveline with Adam and Dr. Drew, somebody has them all on there. Put in Peter James Loveline, click on that episode. It's an hour and a half of him as a guest on that show, and he gets into some stories about the Queen Mary, some things that he's experienced, a little bit about his story. It's a fun listen if you're interested in hearing about that. I think that's a good source to get it.
nice.
I'm trying to find images of pictures or
Of
photos of ghosts taken on ships, and not really seeing anything.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I've seen a lot of things. It's like everything else. I mean, I don't know that I've seen a lot of like you're looking for like video proof or photographic proof. I think a lot of stuff is like EVPs and sound and little noises and things like that. So I mean, especially like we're talking about that submarine. I mean, I'd be interested to hear what kind of noises you actually hear. I mean, it's it's not going anywhere. It's berthed there. So I mean, it's not like it's just floating in the Lake Michigan and it's bouncing around anywhere. It's tied down there. It's not going anywhere. So I'd be curious what kind of noises you actually hear when you're inside the hull of the submarine. If there's things on the exterior of it that are hitting it, or stuff like, or if you're hearing actually metallic sounds inside, which would be
Or
interesting.
voices.
Or voices. I mean, because in there, I would think I don't remember, but I think it was kind of echoey in there. I don't really remember if it was real, you know, what the
I
sound
I
was
can't remember,
inside
but I
there. You know,
feel like it was kinda compartmentalized, where if you were in one area, you kinda had some echo, but if you were in another area, if you were in the galley and that it's was much more confined, if I remember properly, and then, you didn't get that echo, and it's not like you could hear something from the other end, if
right?
I remember right. I feel like it wasn't as you kinda think about it, and you think in your head it's just gonna be a long tube that's gonna echo from, stern to bow, but it doesn't really I don't think it actually was that way. I don't
No, I
remember.
think there's enough stuff in there that it keeps that from happening.
Yeah,
It's not like it's just one long hallway through the whole place. It's like,
sure.
it's up and downs and it's lefts and rights and it's, so and there's bulkheads in different areas. So I mean, I think that it it breaks that up a little bit from what I can remember being in there. And some of those other ships I was on kind of the same way when you're on the aircraft carriers and you get in the bowels of the ship, it's a lot of maze and a lot of
Right.
you know, tight quarters, because they're trying to pack so much stuff into those ships. I mean, think about that with that cobia. They had a medical room. They have bunks. They have the engine room. They have the dining area. I mean, all of that's inside that tube. I mean, so you're
And you
you're
gotta
in
think,
you're in there,
they were thinking about sound in those subs too, because when they were submerged and you're trying not to be heard by, enemy ships or enemy subs, when they're using sonar, you gotta be quiet as shit in
right?
those when you're under the water. So there has to be some detail that was given to that to make sure echoing and sound travel was to a minimum because your life kind of depended on it.
Right. No, I agree. I agree 100%.
So,
So, but I don't know if you guys don't have anything else. I think we'll wrap this baby up, put a bow on it,
okay,
and
call it a night.
call it a night. I don't know. It's too early for it to be a night, but um, anybody watch anything on
Now,
TV today? Anything good? Nobody watch any sports? Any football, baseball, hockey, racing?
No,
no. Did
sir. No,
you?
sir. I did laundry and played video games. I
Oh,
enjoyed a day off.
nothing
I
wrong with that.
I had
Nothing wrong with
business
that.
to take care of all day yesterday and
Yep.
traveling, and
Yep.
yeah, this has been my only weekendish day of the weekend.
Very good. Very good. Well, I'm gonna continue to look for dates for us for that submarine. So hopefully we can get a group together to go do that. So watch for that in the future. I know we got a few other investigations on the TRPD side that we are talking about, along with our Ireland trip. So stay tuned for stuff like that. It is Scaretober, so coming up we're gonna be doing some spooky stuff. Listen for our movie reviews that we have. I know we got a few coming up. They're going to be pretty cool. You guys check them out. Check
Do
us
we have
out
a
on
Paracon coming up?
Paracon's coming up. What's the date on the Paracon?
Oh man, nobody knows the date on the Paracon.
November 2nd.
Yep. So,
November 2nd.
yep.
Sounds right. Hell yeah, November 2nd.
November 2nd, Paracon, Bell City Paracon here in Racine, Kenosha area. You can get the information from our Facebook page. Um, we talk about it on all of our podcasts. Come out, see some vendors, some speakers. We'll be there doing live podcasts, so that'll be a good time. It's the first annual, so we're gonna feel it out, see how it goes, and we'll go from there. But all things that we have set up look pretty good. I think it's gonna be a good time. I see a lot of them popping up around nowadays, so we are working with a couple other teams in the area, and November 2nd's the date, and we're crossing our fingers that everything's going to go good. I think it's going to be a good time.
It's gonna be
I think it's gonna
great.
be a good time. I think there's a little investigation going on at the place afterwards, so that's going to be cool. It's just gonna a lot of good stuff coming up. So stay tuned. Um, I am Rich signing off for the evening, and that's my buddy Jimbo number 2,
Hey, hey.
the Chaos Monger Rob saying good night and see you next time. Peace out.
Deuces.